Hey everybody, welcome to Dimension XR and thank you for joining my talk. For the past 14 years, my mission has been to accelerate the mainstream adoption of AR and VR. Now, in 2020, despite a devastating global pandemic, we have evidence that XR is actually entering the mainstream with 1 billion users. So now it's time to turn our attention to the next decade. And I hope you all join us in the quest to make spatial computing an essential part of everyone's life and work and preparing society for it. To align our views of the future, the topic for today is a spatial new world of 2030. But instead of me predicting the future, here's a message I got from my future self in 2030. Hey Ori, it's me, your future self from 2030. Back in 2020, you are facing a devastating global pandemic, but don't worry, it will pass. I'm sending you this message to encourage you and the community to continue on your long and bumpy road to bringing to the mainstream what you used to call augmented and virtual reality. In fact, you're about to see an unprecedented acceleration of this technology. By now, in 2030, everyone is using it as an essential part of their daily lives and can't even recall a time when it wasn't the case. Almost nothing works without it. Tell your audience they should be proud and to never, never, never give up. Here in 2030, we're still battling major threats assaulting our planet. But we got life-saving help thanks to the wide adoption of spatial artificial intelligence. Spatial artificial intelligence, or SPI as I like to call it, is the fusion of technology including AR, VR, and AI. This infrastructure became critical to make the world function. With SPI, humanity has been transformed and is more equipped than ever to handle the existential crisis we're facing. Humanity has changed more in the past 10 years than in all of human history. Okay, maybe that was a touch of hyperbole, but hear me out. Since 2020, half of all traditional colleges and half of all corporations ceased to exist, and a third of all jobs are now gone. Most lost jobs, though, were replaced by new ones that were recently invented. And with JIT, just-in-time training using SPI, millions are being reskilled quickly to fill those new jobs. And because employees can live where they want and access any job anywhere, unemployment is at its lowest. How big is the SPI market? Well, 3 billion people are using it daily. They can't leave home without it. And global spend on SPI has crossed $1 trillion. We're now truly living in the experience economy. With SPI, the experience is the product, before, during, and after you buy it. We immerse shop from home or go on location-based shopping experiences. We socialize, play, create, entertain, groom, travel, do sports. We do it all in SPI. For businesses across all industries, it's as indispensable as ERP systems were in the 90s, but infinitely more powerful. It has proven business efficiencies upwards of 20% across the board, from HR to design, production, distribution, sales and marketing, while reducing costs and raising safety across the entire supply chain. 99% of all businesses use SPI. In total, the impact of spatial artificial intelligence has boosted the global economy by $1.5 trillion. Still, there is a significant digital divide. But it's encouraging to see that the industry is behind the aspiration to reach every single person of the 8.5 billion people on this planet. And it's driven by a simple proven fact. The more diverse SPI is, the more it resembles reality. And that's a goal we all share. The changes in healthcare were spectacular. Costs have gone down by half and with better outcomes. And that's thanks to personalized and preventive medicine as well as telehealth services. Once again, SPI was a key contributor. It has also brought high-quality healthcare to remote and underserved populations, And in some areas, life expectancy has risen by 20%. Mental illness, which has emerged as a top global health burden on society, is being prevented and treated with SPY-based applications with resounding success, establishing SPY as a juggernaut of social good. SPY unlocked another achievement in society. Fatal accidents and fatal crimes have been cut by half. And yet, the biggest boss fight of all time is the fight against climate change. It seems like the 2020 pandemic was just a prequel to the global climate crisis. We're seeing more floods, fires, storms, but SPY helps develop better solutions for disaster relief and emergency response. It's literally saving the day. But SPY's help is much bigger than that. It visualizes the invisible threats, which elicits a visceral reaction. When you see how every action you take will impact climate change, it makes you think twice before you act. And everyone instantly becomes an activist. We were able to change the behavior of billions of people, as well as influence governments and corporate policies. We entered a new era for business. Shareholder return is no longer seen as its only purpose. Corporations are accountable for their impact on sustainability and society, and those who do well are celebrated by everyone from Main Street to Wall Street. It's a new kind of capitalism, and it works. SPY even transformed waste. Today, any physical consumer good that can be replaced by virtual good is being replaced. Manufacturing of gadgets, toys, art, even fast fashion, the thing you wear once to show off on social, were largely replaced by virtual things that look, feel, and behave like the real thing. That helped reduce manufactured waste by half. In fact, we have replaced many of our physical activities with lower carbon virtual alternative. Fossil fuel-based travel has been reduced dramatically. 2020 will live in infamy as the lost year, but on the positive side, the pandemic generated an explosion of awareness to remote meetings and virtual collaboration tools. And since then, the growth of adoption never slowed down. Distance was eliminated. Most people and organizations prefer to travel virtually. Binge travel is the new thing. SPY became the safe, non-intrusive way to amplify human intelligence. It enhances our natural senses, sight, hearing, touch, and yet can be disconnected at will. Well, to be frank, most of us rarely disconnect, but it's comforting to know it's still possible. You're probably wondering how we interface with SPY, right? In the last few years, light field retina projections, or LERPs in short, became the most ubiquitous form factor and can be seen on every face and in every room, office, and public space. Let me put it this way. There are more LERPs sold than smartphones, TVs, monitors, and computers combined. These affordable and irresistible devices, available with your favorite fashion brands, track your pupils and project three-dimensional imagery straight into your retinas. Here's the new Spatial stack in 2030. LERPs are the main form factor. We aren't concerned anymore with limitations of eyeBox, field of view, resolution, focus, brightness, since for our brains, it's indistinguishable from photons. It's on par with natural vision. If this seems far-fetched to you, keep in mind that back in 2020, all the ingredients were already there. We're facing some formidable challenges and obstacles to deliver on a consumer product, but you pulled through. It's here. Thank you. Oh, and since it's not spraying photons all over the place, the energy consumption is low, and we do not need to worry about charging devices anymore. The dirty secret, though, is that data centers are now accountable for most of the heavy lifting related to SPY, even with the neuromorphic chips which improve AI processing efficiency. And they account for 8% of the global electricity use. Luckily, these centers aim to rely on 100% renewable energy. The LERPs are complemented with sensor arrays. We wear them or embed them in our surroundings. Some even implant them, though most of us still prefer the option to disconnect. Biosensors allow us to naturally interact with the world around us. Controlling experiences is as natural as it was for the cavemen. We use our voice, eyes, hands, body, brain. The keyboard and the mouse went the way of the BlackBerry. Scanning sensors constantly inspect everything and everywhere for places, objects, and people. They help us perceive shapes, textures, sounds, temperatures, the weather, and specialized scanners identify smells, waves, particles, and any other invisible hidden phenomena that we wish to make visible. Think about it. In 2020, we were only able to see less than 1% of the electromagnetic light spectrum and could only hear a tiny sliver of sound waves. For all practical purposes, we were considered deaf and blind. Now, if we choose to, we can see, hear, or sense it all. We perceive reality with astonishing clarity. 5G was a game changer, but it's so 2020s. 6G is the new kid on the block. It's bringing a tenfold boost in data transfer, and it can now connect not billions, but trillions of objects in IoT. 6G now serves pre-processed, pre-rendered imagery straight into our retinas in just a few milliseconds. As a result, none of the processing or rendering still happens on devices. It made LERPs and sensors almost disappear into thin air. Massive crowdsourcing is continuously 3D-fying the entire world. So now 95% of all streets and places are freshly available for persistent augmentation. And guess what? Thanks to heroic efforts by standards organizations and activists, it's all open, interoperable, and accessible through a spatial discovery service from any device. Well, most of it is open. I guess walled gardens never die. They just get replaced. With SPY, crowdsourced knowledge creation about how the world works is the hot new privacy-friendly business model. And as a result, the largest internet company in 2030 became number one without exploiting user information, but by trading in knowledge, aggregated through SPY. Oh, and remember the time when you were debating AR versus VR in the teen years? It is now completely a moot point. It's simply a question of how much of reality you choose to cover, then adjust the opacity on your device. The only question is whether you want to be in the now and interact with whom or whatever is in front of you, or be transported into a different place or time. And if you want both, no problem. Simply enter shared presence. Over the past decade, a new visual language was invented, and it ushered an explosion of creativity. Children have imagination machines on their faces. Just like in 2020, everyone had the tools to create highly shareable video content. Today, everyone is able to create three-dimensional spatial content that seamlessly integrates with the real world or a fantasy world. And it's as easy as shaping Play-Doh if it had a copy, paste, delete, undo, color, scale, etc. menu. So what's up with privacy in 2030? The Internet of Eyes is here. Over 10 billion connected cameras constantly record and analyze our every move. So you may be surprised that privacy is not a top concern for consumers in 2030. And it's for a simple reason. Companies no longer compete on selling you as a product, they now compete on privacy. Privacy considerations are architected into the SPY foundation and are ingrained in every product. So is 2030 a utopia? Don't get me wrong, not everything is rosy here. There is a perpetual tension between truth and fiction. Seeing is no longer believing. Remember the game Real or AR, where a video would be posted asking people to guess if the object is real or augmented? That was a cute game. Today, we literally can't trust our senses. And to make things worse, SPY allowed deepfakes to infiltrate our retinas. It's true that it's also helping detect deepfakes and warn us about their presence, but these are very confusing times. It reminds me of the great sci-fi novel from 100 years ago, Brave New World. It was about the choice between truth and happiness. Aldous Huxley depicted a dystopian state that imposed happiness over its society while compromising truth. Today, in the spatial new world, reality is strained between two dimensions: transparency, truth, and make-believe, fiction. And every moment of every day is a war being waged between these two constructs. And that was the spatial new world of 2030.
I want to stop here to talk about something very specific in your past, in this time. What you think about this problem with identification matter with the Oculus Quest from Facebook? I know it's kind of political talk, but what's your personal view on why Facebook is so obsessed to get our very intimistic data?
It's obviously a significant problem for a lot of people out there,
Mhm,
and they're showing it. I think many people are at a breaking point. They're not willing to continue to bend their privacy and their
mhm,
personal information to the whim of some of these corporations out there.
mhm,
And sort of at a breaking point, I think it's going to cause Facebook in the short term some problems, and potentially in the long term. And that's why, when I kind of presented this view from 2030 backwards, it's after we kind of gone through a bunch of these kind of challenges. And it's maybe it's an optimistic view, but it's a view that says that at some point in the future we'll all figure out that privacy is an essential right, and that it has to be ingrained in every platform and in every product that we use. And
mhm,
that's why I kind of used this tongue-in-cheek title that says "Privacy War is Over," because companies now compete on privacy. They know that
mhm.
consumers would use your product if it's the best on privacy. And we're starting to see some of these kind of trends starting now. Apple is kind of trying to position itself that way. And I think, if you look again 10 years from now backwards,
Mhm.
uh, that discussion hopefully will be a moot point, because privacy will be such an important part of every product that we have.
You, you have a better future than me because I'm also coming from the future, but I don't see that really. Because what I see is that this big corporation, they will get more power. They will take more and more on our very own life, and we won't be in my dimension, if we can talk like that. What I see is not the same thing. Absolutely no. Because what I see the GAFAs becoming the total government. I see them having everything on us because of AR or VR data they collected in 2020. They know everything about us because of the pandemics. We gave everything, and now they pay us to watch ads on the TV. So we are not in the same feature. You are on a branch, I'm on another branch.
Well,
No
I
one
think,
wants.
I mean, you're pointing to a true challenge that we're currently facing. I mean, it's a crisis, not just a challenge. And the question is, what do we do about it, right? I mean, it could definitely happen that
Yeah.
in a few years from now, we'll go in the wrong direction, because the technology will allow actually even more compromising of privacy. So the question is, what do we do about it? And the future that I'm describing, yes, it is much more optimistic, but it's assuming that we've done the right things, and it's not inevitable. It's only going to happen if we do those things to make it clear to corporations and to governments that
Uh-huh.
privacy is a top concern, and it has to be addressed in every product and every technology out there in the best way possible.
Who is your Sarah Connor or your because I'm not sure really because they are greedy. They really want everything from when you look. We are all in the tech, and we see what's going on. The real money is the data, and the personal data is what matters. So what I see with AR taking over with mixed reality, also sensor coming more and more invasive. What I see is a little bit or more dystopic, really, and we can't do anything. When you say that, the question is, and it's too late. What you think? I'm suicidal. I should call my doctor or what? Because what I see is the real thing is that it won't change. They will collect more and more, and you, me, to every small actor around, will be feeding the beast. Whatever we will do, we will be always giving, promoting the data. Actually, I can't stop myself promoting AR or VR because of you, because I saw AW since my beginning. I saw what Luis Rosenberg did in the things, many things like that. You gave me the thing, but I don't see how to stop it. I will participate. I know I'm participating doing this kind of event and promoting, but what can I do? How can we turn the table?
Well, I agree with you that it's a huge challenge, like I said, a crisis. But what I don't agree is that it's too late. I think there's always something that we can do, and it's up to every single one of us. I mean, it's users, it's the leaders, it's product people, it's governments, of course, and it's a nonprofit or kind of societies that are working really hard to make this a critical point that everybody is talking about. And I think, first of all, just creating the awareness, explaining the threats, and then thinking about how to use different. I think the techniques to protect privacy are known for the most part, and you know how to kind of bake it into the application and technologies. And actually, again, many companies are already doing this. So you said that the most important thing is data. That I agree, but it doesn't necessarily have to be personalized data. It could be anonymized data. So when you start aggregating information from many people to create to kind of create a knowledge base on how things work. I think eventually when we all have smart glasses and sensors that track everything that we do, it could go into a very bad path, but it could also go into a place where this information is aggregated to create a knowledge-based sort of how the world works. And I think that knowledge will be even more valuable than the personal information that companies are selling today for advertising. I think that knowledge could become could lead some companies to be so big that they're actually bigger than those who exploit data, and at that point the market would benefit, would support companies that go in the right direction. And it's also related to the other thing I mentioned, the fact that there's sort of a new capitalism that is emerging, where it's not just about satisfying shareholders, but it's really about satisfying all the stakeholders, right? There's things like sustainability, social impact, and privacy. Once corporations start to look at all these things, they will see that the market rewards them for that. So it'll be rewarded through more users, more customers, but also on Wall Street, their market cap could be much bigger if they actually put more attention to those things that currently only a few companies are doing. But I think as this decade progresses and we get closer to 2030, it will become very clear that this is the biggest crisis humanity has ever faced, and that we all have to do something about it, including those large corporations.
Diego Garcia has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Hi, Ori. This is Diego Garcia from Argentina. Thank you very much for the video and great presentation. My question is, how do you envision, how do you see the adoption and the access of SPY in terms of cost or technology codes when we divide the world into developed countries or developed economies on one hand, and on the other hand, the developing or undeveloped economies? So how do you see that technology will have different access if if they do.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that that's a critical one, and it kind of goes into the area of diversity and the need to reach every single person on Earth. You know, by 2030, we'll have 8.5 billion people on this planet. And you cannot afford to have just a small portion of this population taking advantage of this technology. The whole idea is that the technology has to be accessible by everyone. And I think the fact that it's getting smaller and cheaper and better is going to help with that. But that's not enough. It's also about creating content applications that are relevant for every single person, for every country, for every underserved population out there. Because I think one thing that we do agree, at least in the AR and VR industry, is that in order for what we create to be closer to reality, to kind of match reality, it has to be diverse and it has to include, all different people and different locations, geographies, languages, and so on. And that is a kind of a key requirement for every company, wherever it is. So is it inevitable that we will get to every corner of Earth? Not at all. I think it requires a lot of hard work from everyone in this industry, while emphasizing the need for diversity and the need to reach every person. Because again, the technology has the potential to get there, but it's not going to get there if we all just sit around and continue to do what we're comfortable doing, instead of trying to push it and to try to reach everyone on Earth.
Thank you so much.
See, there's a question in the chat about energy resources to keep AI and data stored. I mean, that's something I touched on in the talk, or in the video, about the fact that more and more of the processing power is now in 2030 relegated to data centers and to servers, because you have 5G and then 6G, and it's so fast to transfer information between the servers and the end user, the edge, that it's not worth to actually doing the processing on those devices themselves. And that allows them to be much smaller and to not use much energy. But those data centers are now using so much electricity. There are some predictions that I read that it could be actually 8%, which is what I used in this discussion. And that's a huge amount in terms of heat, in terms of carbon emissions, all these kind of things. It could be a huge impact. So it's going to be imperative for those data centers to vow to use only renewable energy, and the sooner the better, because otherwise it could change the whole balance of carbon emissions in the world. And even if cars become all electric, it's still, I mean, the data centers will be such a huge contributor if we don't take immediate action towards renewable energy. I don't know if it answers the question, but that's kind of how it relates to the talk. Any other questions?
No more question.
I see. Actually,
Okay.
I see the chat from if we have time to.
Sorry.
No, I see.
I will check the chat
about AWE.
Majority of.
Hi, this is Johanna from Finland. Really interesting video, thank you. I'm curious about the gadgets. You were talking about the data being projected into your retina, so into your eye. So what would the interface or the gadget look like in your prediction?
So actually, I didn't get into the details of exactly how it's going to look, because
I know, because that's why I want to know.
Because I don't know exactly, but what I do know is that a lot of the near eye displays that we're using today have some inherent limitations, and I don't think they'll be with us for many more years. Things like the ability to control the focus of elements, the field of view, the size, the cost, the electricity use, all these kind of things are just not allowing these devices to continue to grow for the next 10 years. On the other hand, we have a few companies, some of them already delivered products like North, that already demonstrate this ability to project this imagery into the retina itself. So basically scan the retina with pixels in a very tiny laser, very low energy, doesn't hurt the eye at all. It's totally safe. And it overcomes a lot of these challenges that we're currently facing. First of all, it's indistinguishable from reality. It looks exactly like you would see, when you look out there into the real world. You can control the focus, it's very low energy consumption. So it has a lot of these advantages. And then, it could be, hanging on your glasses or your regular smart glasses that you barely can see that it actually has these displays, because, it can be miniaturized. But I think it could also be embedded in the environment. So, you walk in the store, and in the store they have those retina projectors. They detect the people that walk by, their pupils, and then they project into those pupils. And that could be kind of a little weird, I think, because then all of a sudden you see something and you're not even wearing your glasses and you're not sure if it's really there or not. So it's kind of a little invasive. You would have to kind of protect your eyes to avoid seeing it. But I think it's something that could happen. And maybe it could also happen in offices, in your workspaces. Instead of needing to wear those glasses, maybe it's ubiquitous. It's always there. No matter where you go, you have this information in your projected into your retinas, and that even exacerbates more this challenge of being able to distinguish between real and fake information or fictional information.
Yeah, because that would actually be my follow-up question, because you probably see in the video hyper reality. Have you seen? I think it's an Argentinian guy who made this video about what the reality would be in. I don't think it was year 2030, but anyway, in the future, when all this information is being bombarded into our eyes. So how do you kind of turn it off? And right. Would that be the new commodity? So you're paying not to see all this hyper reality stuff.
So hyper reality, I think it's not predicting the future. It's really it's kind of a warning. It's
exactly.
If we continue with some of the things that we're doing today, and we don't pay attention to this, then this is how it could be, and it would be really awful. But I think in reality, and you're already seeing it with many of the applications and technologies out there, that you have the concept of layers. You have the ability to filter what information you want to see. You can make it personalized. So it's not like you'll be constantly bombarded with information that you don't want to see. It's actually, it could be something that you that you create for yourself, and it's exactly how you want it to be. But again, it's not inevitable. It's something that we all have to work towards, and it has to be high on the mind of product designers out there.
Another question? So do you think it's always in the projection? Do you think that this hypothesis that we are living ourselves in a virtual world, it makes sense for you regarding what you know about technology, about virtual reality, etc.? It makes sense for you that we could be living in a virtual world paid with a kind of Sims for the fifth dimension. A young guy is playing in a cafe, playing with us in a simulated world. Is it something you think it's possible?
You mean today or in the future?
No, is it this hypothesis is kind of, you know, is,
Currently living in a
here?
simulation?
Yeah, we're living in a simulation already. Because virtual reality drive me there. When I say that, I say, okay, tomorrow, if we have intelligent human virtual beings, we give them emotion, we give them a life, etc., etc. They will think that they live for real. So you think you, Ori, actually, this hypothesis is completely stupid, or you think it's possible?
Well, I feel like I'm real, like I'm really here, although I'm on Zoom talking with you virtually, but I definitely feel it's real. I mean, I'm aware of this kind of theory, and actually many scientists believe that there's a 50% chance that we're currently
Yeah.
living in a simulation. Fine, you know, if we're living in a simulation, fine. We feel it's pretty real. But I think, I mean, for me, the bigger question is what's going to happen in the future. You know, in 5, 10, 20 years, are we going to be living in a virtual world instead of in the real world? And obviously, it's going to be a combination of the two. But I think my gut feels that as humans, we crave for real human interaction, for interaction with the real world constantly. You know, that's how we've been groomed for a million years, right? So so I think that will continue. We'll still have time of the day where we interact, we work in the real world, of course with a lot of augmented information, but still in the real world. And then, you know, you go home and kind of like you sit in front of the TV or play video games, you will get into a virtual world. And that could be, you know, either a different place on the planet or other planets, or it could be a fantasy place where you go to that, you know, doesn't exist, that somebody created for you. And, you know, it could be 2-3 hours, and maybe for some people it will be much longer than that. But I feel like we'll still be moving between the real and the virtual. And you'll have, you know, it's obviously a continuum, right, between reality and complete virtual reality. And we'll have different flavors in between as we go through the day. But I don't think we'll end up at some point in a completely simulated environment, unless we're already in it today, which again.
But if you listen to these guys, they say that we are moving to the end of the simulation, because we are trying to recreate a simulation, and then the machine who is playing this world will go at its limit. It's kind of strange things, but I don't know if you are a fan of this kind of approach or theory. Or maybe, what about having all our mind simulated? Is it, you think it's possible? Where you download the brain and then you play with it?
Well, I have to say, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about this. I think it's something that is definitely possible in the future, probably not within the next 10 years, probably a bit later. But this is something that will probably happen, where we can completely replicate, download, and simulate how the brain works. So you don't need to be in a physical body like we are right now necessarily. But that's still ways away. I think until we get to that point where, you know, we become a different kind of species, you know, cyborgs, or, you know, however you want to describe that new species. I think until then there's quite a bit of time, and the best transition to get to that point is by using, you know, augmented and virtual reality, which kind of extends our bodies through our natural senses. So, you know, it's not intrusive. It's something that is relatively natural to how we, again, lived for the last million years or so. So it's a much more, it's a safer path towards that scary future that some of the scientists are envisioning.
Mm-hmm. Okay. To come to something more, I don't know if there are some other question. We have a few minutes ahead again for us. You are talking like someone good Sims because you say it's 50-50. Why you choose to be in the upper part? You feel something which say this is real and this is not real. But how you can make the distinction of, because you know that these virtual beings, that's where I'm going. These virtual beings, they are creating actually. They are becoming more and more sophisticated. They are giving them some intelligence, their own life into the virtual world. And there will be more and more pregnant significant in the world. So at one point, they will think they are real.
I agree. I think it's definitely possible that virtual beings will become so real that we feel like they're real. And
Yes.
maybe we are already there, right?
That's the point. That's the point where I want to. I don't know. I'm a little bit thinking about many things. Last question about how the business is going actually on the event organization side, because what I see is that we are moving on online format. And what I see also with this conference that is very difficult to make people pay to come to a virtual online event. What you feel you at AWE on this side?
Well, I mean, you're right. There's definitely some Zoom fatigue across the board. And, you know, it's been what, like 8 months or 7 or 8 months now. We've seen hundreds, if not thousands of virtual events bombarding our inbox. And so there's definitely fatigue and it's hard to get the attention of people because they feel like it's not, you know, it's not as intimate, it's not as tangible, it's not as effective as you know, when you meet in person. So on one hand, I think we've gotten better. I mean, there are a lot of tools out there that are making this online experience much smoother, much more effective. So kind of taking advantage of the benefits of online versus, and not trying to replicate the physical type of events. But you know, if I look into the future, experts are saying there's sort of a consensus that by Q3, 4 next year, we'll start to get back to normal, in a sense that, you know, there'll be a vaccine, the infection rates will go significantly down, and physical events will start to come back. So I'm kind of looking ahead, you know, about a year from now, to meet again in a physical event. I mean, it's still going to be hybrid. We'll have a lot of people that join online, but we'll have some of that in-person, you know, magic that you can't replicate online. But until then, you know, there's, I mean, on the AWE side, we do a lot of meetups. We have now meetups running around about 20 cities around the world, almost on a monthly basis. And that's kind of a great way to get together, to talk about important things. And we're also starting to work with a lot of the companies out there that are in our network, to help them engage with the AWE community. You know, it's a really vital and alive, and people still seek high quality content. So I think we can help a lot of companies to, you know, if you're launching a product, or if you want to share information about your company's services, we would love to partner with you and kind of find ways to get in front of the community in meaningful ways. You know, whether it's social newsletters, webinars, meetups, reports. There's a lot of ways that I think we can generate valuable content and reach the people that you're seeking.
Mm-hmm. And you're not, are you a fan of this, all these tools coming, Virbela, etc.? It could be a good way to replace the physical events. The VR,
yeah. I see what you mean. So I mean, when we in early March, when we realized that in-person events are not going to happen this year in 2020, and we had to convert to an online event, we looked at what was out there, and including a lot of the VR type of experiences, and we felt like they have value, but they're not ready to host the entire event. So you cannot rely on the VR platforms as the only place that people will consume information. And that's why we decided to go for kind of a hybrid approach, where we first, use the traditional means like, Zoom and websites where anyone can consume this information from their computer, from their mobile devices. They can only listen to it. They don't have to be, completely in it. But at the same time, we added some of the side events in VR. So you go into a session, with Altspace or maybe Virbela or others, spend there an hour on a certain topic, have a very concentrated interaction without any, distractions, because that's the one big advantage of going into a VR experience, that you're fully in it. There's no texting coming in, there's no phone calls. And that's an advantage. But again, I don't think it's ready yet for like a 4-day, 3 or 4 multiple tracks running in parallel, all done in VR. That could be a little limiting for some audiences, and also maybe stressful for participants to be in it for so long and be able to navigate all the information out there. So that's why the hybrid approach, I think, for now is probably what makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your time and your support, and thank you to all the attendees. I don't know if there is a question. No?
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. And thanks for everybody.
Namaste, like they say. And I hope we'll meet in physical very soon.
Absolutely.
So goodbye, everyone. And thank you for being here. Tomorrow we have a big program with many good speakers.